Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga was the third role-playing game in the Mario franchise, following Super Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo and Paper Mario for the Nintendo 64. Much like Paper Mario, Superstar Saga was developed by a new studio, and spawned its own successful series with several more entries on Nintendo's handheld consoles. A remake of Superstar Saga was also released in 2017 for the 3DS, alongside new content and improved visuals. This Game Boy Advance adventure was developed by Alpha Dream, a gaming studio which had only recently been founded by ex-Square members Tetsuo Mizuno and Chihiro Fujioka, both of whom worked on Super Mario RPG several years prior, as well as on multiple other entries in the prominent Final Fantasy and Saga role-playing franchises. In fact, the company's name, Alpha Dream, is a play on Square's Final Fantasy title. In context of the Nintendo timeline, Luigi's Mansion had been released a few years prior to this game, so players had the opportunity to live their Luigi-filled dreams, or rather nightmares, on the GameCube. But this felt like a true Mario Brothers plural experience, with the iconic duo tag-teaming puzzles and foes as only two synchronized heroes can do. Many Nintendo fans still claim that this is the go-to handheld Nintendo RPG experience, and we'll figure out why that is as we discuss what's so great about Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. This handheld Nintendo adventure moves players from the familiar Mushroom Kingdom to the neighboring Bean Bean Kingdom. The evil Cackletta, disguised as an ambassador from the Bean Bean Kingdom, has stolen Princess Peach's voice for an unknown nefarious plot. Mario, as usual, sets off to rescue the princess. Bowser, frustrated that anyone but him would kidnap Princess Peach, agrees to take Mario across the border, and through a series of stubborn mistakes, Luigi winds up on board Bowser's ship as well. The use of a foreign land as this game's setting presented a great opportunity to introduce new characters to the Mario universe that didn't have to fit too precisely with Nintendo's usual portrayal of the Mushroom Kingdom's inhabitants. This neighboring realm has a few of their own iconic red and green duos who will aid the Mario Brothers on their journey by teaching the player new techniques or by upgrading equipment. The first pair of Bean Bean siblings would be the Starshade Bros. These two teach Mario and Luigi how to use Bros actions, allowing Mario and Luigi to team up for high jumps and spin jumps depending on marching order. The high jump is based on Luigi's uniquely tall and buoyant leap, which has been a staple of his character since the United States version of Super Mario Bros. 2. The spin jump is inspired by Mario's maneuver of the same name in Super Mario World, which even uses the same sound effect as the technique in Superstar Saga. Players can use both of these techniques throughout their travels in order to reach new areas, as well as in battle to perform special moves, utilizing both of the Mario Brothers at once. Once they've been crafted by the Hoo Hoo Village's Hammerhead Bros, Mario and Luigi will each have a hammer that they can equip at the player's command, to break roadblocks and deal heavier damage in battle. However, much like Paper Mario, there will also be clearly destructible objects which can't be overcome by the simple whack of a hammer, so players will have to return to some areas after the discovery of more advanced techniques. Several hours into the game, each of the brothers will receive a unique hand power to improve their capabilities in and out of combat. Mario's is fire and Luigi's is lightning. Not only will these powers be used to unlock new areas for the player, but some enemies will be weak to either of these elements, and if the player can deduce the element quickly enough, they could save themselves plenty of turns and ability points with some easy critical hits. Despite the focus on their own original characters, Alpha Dream also presented charming interpretations of traditional Mario enemies that didn't feel like they had been ripped straight out of one of Nintendo's previous releases. Even Mario and Luigi themselves have great unique designs for Superstar Saga, and there are only so many contexts for this to be said in the gaming world, but these are some cute mustachioed men. This is some of the most expressive we've seen either Mario or Luigi, and it's fun to see their individual personalities as well as how they interact together. Considering the Game Boy Advance only has 2 more buttons than its predecessor, the L and R shoulder buttons, it's surprising how much easier it is to control not only one but 2 protagonists both in battle and with relative freedom in the overworld. Since gameplay generally comes down to Mario being controlled with the A button and Luigi being controlled with the B button, everything else just changes the mode and context of what each brother is doing. The developers did an excellent job of teaching the player all of these different context-sensitive abilities, as well as conveying when and how to best use them, but leaving success up to the player's own ability. there are a few minigames throughout the Bean Bean Kingdom which specifically challenge the player's proficiency in controlling two independent characters. It's impressive how well Alpha Dream managed to come up with multiple interesting and fun ways to control two characters with the hardware at hand, usually by limiting how much the player had to focus on at any one time. For a combat-focused RPG, Alpha Dream still managed to fit a good deal of platforming into Superstar Saga, which really blended the classic Mario experience with an interesting new environment and several challenges which were never possible on less powerful hardware. Even the simple act of hitting blocks, an obviously integral part of every Mario experience since the very beginning, has been expanded upon, with new kinds of blocks that require inputs from both brothers, as well as those that incorporate the game's architecture to create compact platforming challenges. I have to say, there are definitely some occasional issues with depth perception, but the platforming puzzles are simple enough that you usually don't get stuck for very long unless you're simply misunderstanding the layer that something exists on. The combat in Superstar Saga is incredibly reminiscent of the Paper Mario formula, and even features action commands to impact the flow of battle. However, instead of simply blocking projectiles to shrug off some of the damage, Mario and Luigi can actually dodge attacks, leaping over flames, shells, and enemies themselves as they move and attack in specific patterns. Players can also use a hammer to attack or defend in battle against enemies who move differently or are otherwise unaffected by your jump attack. Also similar to Paper Mario, the player has the opportunity to deal damage at the beginning of a fight by jumping on their enemies in the overworld. However, if the player overshoots their jump and the brother in back runs into the enemy, they'll instead begin the fight stunned until the turn order gets back to them, giving more agile enemies a chance to deal their own damage with no opportunity for the player to dodge. In Superstar Saga, Mario and Luigi are each controlled with a separate button in combat, A and B respectively, so the player will need to keep a close eye on enemy attack patterns and who they're about to attack in order to successfully dodge with the correct brother. Though they can obviously operate individually, the most unique feature in how the Mario brothers behave in battle would be through their tandem bros attacks, which involve Mario and Luigi spinning, hammering, and jumping off of each other to perform special moves that only the Mario brothers could imagine. If players feel more than confident with the hint icons and slow motion handicaps present while performing special abilities on their default setting, they can turn these handicaps off for a greater challenge. If the player performs special moves on the most difficult setting, then it will actually save them some of their ability points, or bros points, as well as do more damage. As the player further practices their cooperative moves, Mario and Luigi will come up with new ways to improve these tactics, such as inflicting status effects or attacking more than one enemy at a time. The more effort you're willing to put into mastering the bros attacks, the more fun combat becomes, because you're beyond the point of just trying to dodge and survive, but now trying to make each encounter shorter as well as more interesting and engaging. If one of our protagonists goes down in battle, the brother that's still fighting will help the incapacitated one in order to dodge together when enemies attack. However, this added weight will also slow the player's reaction time. If the player manages to win in the end without the duo intact, whichever character had fallen will be returned to life at only 1 HP, but saving players the use of rare or expensive healing items every time one of their two characters is knocked out. Since it's technically feasible to get through virtually any fight without taking damage, there's no need for grinding. Combat doesn't come down to which abilities you've unlocked or how high your stats are, but how well you can recognize patterns and how quickly you can react. All of these features and balances make the combat in Superstar Saga really engaging and fun, which, as I've gone on record saying multiple times, is probably the most important factor in actually keeping players reeled in to any moderately scaled RPG. The duration and outcome of every brawl is entirely dependent on the player's own skill level, making them want to actually approach enemies in the wild rather than avoiding them in the interest of saving time. There are some impressively simple quality of life features in Superstar Saga, which shorten the player's time in menus whenever they have to heal their party members. In the instance of refilling health or bros points, the cursor will alternate between both brothers if they're at a similar level of health, so the player doesn't even have to select which character they're healing to evenly distribute health items. The Star Beans coffee blends follow a similar feature, offering to upgrade whichever brother has the lower degree and whichever stat that drink will boost. Last but not least on this game's list of notable features would be the music and sound design. As could be imagined, the soundtrack features some fun and impressive remixes of classic songs from Mario and Luigi's history. These recognizable tunes appear in caves and in the presence of certain characters or enemies, but the rest of the soundtrack features brand new music that has the same energy as Mario's usual anthems, while still drawing the player into the whimsical role-playing atmosphere of an interesting and unfamiliar land full of goofy characters. This well-rounded soundtrack is the work of Japanese composer Yoko Shimomura, who has had an incredibly prolific career in composing memorable tracks in some of the most highly praised RPGs of all time, with her credits including Super Mario RPG, Xenoblade Chronicles, and the entire Kingdom Hearts franchise. On top of the music, many of the game's characters have brief yet common vocal outbursts, which really kept this game from feeling too quiet, as plenty of handheld games have always felt due to limited audio channels, keeping them from utilizing both an impressive soundtrack and contextual sound effects. Though they had long been iconic mascots of the gaming world as a whole, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga was actually the first time players had the opportunity to see the two Mario brothers going on an adventure together. In the platforming games, they always took turns between players, so unless they were on the same team in Mario Party or a tennis match, players actually rarely saw these two interact, despite how long they had been such an iconic duo in gaming. This most likely boils down to the fact that Nintendo had finally started to develop Luigi's personality a bit more following the release of Luigi's Mansion, in order to break him out of the second-player Green Mario pigeonhole. In some regards, Luigi actually attracts more of the player's attention in this game than Mario, with a notable increase in jokes at his expense and much more entertaining animations while other characters deliver the plot. The development team at Alpha Dream really did a good job of making sure the gameplay was balanced between both Mario and Luigi. Neither one is more important than the other, and they'll both be used equally throughout the game, both separately and together. This isn't portrayed as Mario on an adventure and Luigi lending a hand, and players actually get to see how equally capable both characters are. This is one of those games that just keeps on giving. Every time I thought I was done learning new abilities, or was nearing the final boss, or wouldn't see any more fun references to the Mario Brothers history, I was proven wrong repeatedly. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga just keeps giving you fun new things to do. Up until the moment the credits roll, this game still presents new combinations of its features and themes to challenge and entertain the player from beginning to end. That is what's so great about Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of What's So Great About Gaming, as we took a look at Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. Want to see some bonus content? Maybe support the creation of these videos? If so, check out the What's So Great Discord, Twitch, or Patreon. Links for all of those are in the description. If you want to hear what's great about another game, check out the link to our last episode, Braid, on screen or in the description. And please take the time to subscribe to be involved in the discussions here. Thanks again for watching. Now go play a great game. We'll see you next time.